Have you ever been to boot camp where the instructor gives you a set of instructions right at the beginning, and by the time you get to the second station you have no idea what you're supposed to be doing? Then you have to ask your partner and you feel like a total spaz. It's happened to me lots of times. Sometimes as a sports mom, I'll be watching sports and the coach pulls the kids over at halftime and gives a set of instructions, and I always wonder, how can they remember all of that? I know I'd have trouble. I always think to myself, wow, those coaches must have some great tricks that they use to get those kids to remember the plays and execute them well. This all got me thinking that I'd love to learn more about kids who have learning disabilities and don't necessarily process in the same way that other people do, and how coaches can help them to excel. I'm really excited to have with us today Mike and Matab from Open Doors. This is an initiative that they've started to help kids who are transitioning from high school into post-secondary education who have learning disabilities. Matab is an avid sports fan and Mike is a high-level athlete and coach. All right, you're live.
Hey guys, it's your boys, Mike,
Matab,
and we're here with Open Doors and what it takes. So we're here today to talk to you a little bit about our initiative and our experiences through dyslexia, learning disabilities, and how as an athlete to overcome them and use strategies that you might pick up in your sport as transferable skills into your academic.
So Open Doors BC is primarily geared towards students in high school, specifically in grades 11 and 12. And what our aim is to help smoothen out the transition from high school to post-secondary for students with learning disabilities. Our main aim is to kind of gather those students in the Lower Mainland and just to introduce them to the resources that are available at different post-secondary institutions.
We also would love to destroy the stigma around learning disabilities and what kind of follows with that. And we had a great conversation with Nadia about how multifaceted this approach could be, right? When it comes to mental health, when it comes to not just going into post-secondary school, but also just self-development also. I can give a little bit of light on that. I am dyslexic. I have a learning disability, and sports really helped me kind of come out of my shell with that. And I'll owe a huge chunk of my life to swimming. We kind of joked about how in swimming you just dive in and you go back and forth, which is easy enough, right? All we have to do is follow a big black D, right? Unlike other sports, like basketball where you have to learn plays, or hockey, right? And I give credit to them for following that, because I know I couldn't do it. I remember grade 12 basketball when I was finally doing other sports than swimming. Coach Case, his name, he threw a board right in front of me and I was like, what the heck is going on here? Like T's and triangles and X's and O's, like just pick a shape and go for it, right? As many of you might know, with a learning disability, it's a lot more hands-on. So sports, dance, arts, fine arts gives us that way of release, right? That we can be a little bit more hands-on with our craft, if you will. So when it came to swimming, right, I learned that I was a way more visual learner. I needed to watch my races after I finished them to see where and what I went wrong. So I decided, you know what, maybe, of course I'm not going to have my classes filmed, right? Me filming my classes, but what I can do is maybe stay after class, right? And because that's what I did with my coach, I stayed after practice a little longer and I said, you know what, can we go over this one more time? And he or she took me step by step through the step. And another also thing that I would have to say that swimming and sports in general would help me and help a lot of people out too. And it's not just with kids with learning disabilities, right? It's just kids that might see it in a different light. That it's always not being afraid to go back to the drawing board. If something doesn't work, never be afraid to say, you know what, that didn't work. Let's erase it and go back and do it a different way. Or not erase the whole thing, let's erase one part of it, right? Or maybe this part works differently with this part, but it doesn't work the same way with this, right? So always being adaptable is the best thing I would have to say that sports can transfer into that.
Yeah, from an outsider's perspective, you see a lot of high level athletes, Michael Phelps, for example, who have some sort of
My boy.
learning disabilities, and they're still able to perform at such a high level, and that's tested to their ability to just go back and really study how their how their performance went and what they could do better to improve themselves, and despite any learning disabilities.
Another thing as a coaching perspective, but on an outside, as a coach being on the outside looking in, our head coach Amelia, she did something really cool where she took her kids out of the water and took bands and put them on the gate, and what she did was got them to lay down on kind of a box to simulate in the water how it felt, but to really manipulate their stroke to have that high elbow and to really reach out in the front and to hold the water, right? And picking up skills and not being afraid to just seeing like, oh, this is what Emmy did. How about I do that? Similar, or maybe I put my own spin on it with my kids, or maybe you would like to do that on your own, right?
How did you tell your coaches about your learning disabilities, and how did your teammates respond to that?
My coaches were really receptive. But the thing I liked about my coaches is that they knew their own ignorance, if you will, right? They knew what they didn't know, so they had a really good dialogue with my parents. Because me being 14, 12, right around that time, I'm not really good at fully knowing well of learning disabilities, learning strategies. I'm just doing what I'm told, right? Like what could work. So they were really open about that. And I honestly feel like coaches just should have an open mind when it comes to those certain things and never be afraid to have that open dialogue, which I feel like from what I've seen, we've gotten a lot better. But there are coaches in my experience that have gotten really frustrated with me, and it ruins the love of the sport, right? I loved soccer, but I loved being a goalie. But just because I didn't get certain placements or plays as a goalie, it ended up ruining the sport for me. And as a coach, we wanted to do a couple of things, but major things are we want to motivate the athlete, but we also want to make sure that they love what they're doing at the same time. They love pushing themselves, and they love just getting down and getting to work and knowing that they can get to their goals. And as a coach, we have to be adaptable to that. We can't just tell the kids to go back to the drawing board. We have the responsibility to either take them to the drawing board or to be the ones to make the calls to erase it, right?
Yeah, like you said, like a primary, I guess, job of a coach, like Michael says, to make sure that, their students are enjoying what they're doing. And you see that in pro sports as well. Athletes talk about it all the time, like before an interview, like, oh, we just want to go out and have fun and enjoy what we're doing. But like Michael said, like if there is something that's hindering you and that's destroying your love of the game, or it's hindering you from having fun, then that's only going to lead you to drop out of that sport.
Nathan Mazinski, great guy, love him. He was my mentor when I first joined the Rapids, right? I would always ask him, Nathan, what's going on with the next set? Nathan, what's going on with the next set? Nathan, he one time looked at me and he's like, the board is right there. And he left. And I was like, and I kind of had a pit in my throat on my stomach, right? I was like, oh my God, Nathan, like if Nathan gets mad at me, like that's the end of the world right there. But then once I had that conversation with him, just saying like, hey Nathan, like I just didn't get it. Just almost trying to suck up your own pride and saying like, you know what, yeah, I was wrong and I didn't get it and I need to get it a different way. And I'm sorry that I was relying too much on you, because I know you're training there just as much as I am.
I guess there's also some ignorance involved in it as well. You know, people that just assume that, oh, he's an athlete, he'll know what to do, but you know, behind the scenes, or if you will, like, you don't know what they're going through, and you know, that they might need a different approach. So there's a lot of things involved in that as well, and I'd say, you know, ignorance is also a part of it, and that's something that, you know, with the initiative that we were talking about before, we're trying to
Open those doors.
get rid of, and you know, just spread awareness about it in general. And I'm sure a lot of, you know, young athletes out there, they're gonna appreciate what we're gonna bring to the table, and they're gonna enjoy it.
Huge thank you to Mike and Matav for coming out today and for sharing some of their ideas with us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please check out some of our previous podcasts. You'll hear some fantastic ideas from youth athletes and coaches.